Hey, it's So from So's Real Thoughts. We are here to talk about Mr. Robot Season 3, Episode 2. Before we get into that, if you didn't subscribe yet, please be sure to subscribe so you can tune in to all the fun of us breaking down Mr. Robot episode by episode. Okay, so without further ado, so last week we kind of set the foundation. Nothing really interesting or crazy happened besides Darlene being caught up with the FBI and Elliot having this revelation that in order to help the people, he needs to go back to Evil Corp, and help build back their data. That's what he's doing. So in classic Mr. Robot fashion, the opening shot sequence is him cheerily going to work, back to his 9 to 5 grind. He is back at E Corp. There's cheery music everywhere. He's super happy. We see emoji faces. He takes his Zoloft. He orders those Trunk Club shirt thing subscription where he gets those nice shirts, and he's back. He's one of them now. But as he's saying, he's not selling out. He's actually helping them kind of rebuild their database. And in order to do that, he's trying to advise the head bosses that in order to save their company, they need to digitize all their data instead of having it all in paper form. But because all of his managers aren't listening to him, slowly, one by one, Elliot is hacking them and getting them all fired till he gets to somebody on the higher level that says, like, hey, that sounds interesting. Why don't we do that? So just that first sequence, brilliant. Loved it. Very Requiem for a Dream, which has a lot of influences on this series. One of the most interesting things that Elliot says is that he's not helping E Corp break down. He's actually helping them become better, which in a weird way, it's very logical. Like, in order to just make those toxic things not toxic, aka the government, you just take out and eliminate all the bad people to make it good. Which, honestly, is a brilliant, Elliot, brilliant. But obviously, even though he's doing good work, he is retreating back to his loneliness. It's hitting him harder than ever. He's back to his psychiatrist named Krista. I think it's Krista. And they kind of talk through what he's going through. He talks to his psychiatrist, and they end up finding out through him just talking that Darlene is actually his trigger that brings out Mr. Robot in him. And he tells her this childhood story about how him and Darlene used to make Kevin McAllister from Home Alone in the snow, and how his dad, that was the same day that his dad pushed him out the window, and Krista was like, this is the first time you've ever told me that. Why is that? And he was like, oh, I thought I told you before. How could I not tell you before? And he also tells her about how he kind of misses being part of something bigger, which he probably means like him with Tyrell and Mr. Robot taking over the world, but he can't be doing that right now. So totally understandable. And of course, we also see Joanna Wellick back, and she's actually on national television telling the whole world about how she, even though she filed divorce from Tyrell, she deeply loves him still and actually canceled that divorce. And so she's up to no good, as always. Darlene, as we've suspected, is working with the FBI. They're really trying to crack her down, expose Elliot, and she has no idea. I feel like she's basically in the dark, and F Society released a new video, and she's like, it's not us. That's not the same one. Even though it's from the same Vimeo page, it's not us. And Dominique shows up, and she believes Darlene and is very hesitant because Darlene seems like she's the closest to Elliot, but she has no freaking idea because when Dominique says, is Elliot working with Tyrell? She says, hell no, but she ends up playing back a recording from when Elliot was in jail to Darlene, and it's Tyrell on the phone. So it's a really big shocker. So we see Joanna again and her driver driving down the street with her little baby in this back car seat, and somebody is following her. As we've known, it's her waiter boyfriend who testified against that other dude in order for him to go to jail because he beat Joanna up, and he's kind of deranged. He's insane. He's like, "Oh my god, Joanna lied to me. She told us that we were going to be together," and the bodyguard goes out and beats him up, blah blah blah. As soon as they almost drive off, the waiter dude comes back with a gun, shoots the bodyguard. And then Joanna is freaking out, obviously. She tries to get the gun from the dead bodyguard's body. And then at that moment, she ends up getting shot. Like, that is the big woo. So she gets shot. He's like kind of walking away, the waiter guy. And then he gets shot because, dun dun dun, of course, the bodyguard is still kind of semi-conscious, alive. And he ends up shooting that guy dead. A lot to unpack there, but that was probably the big shocker. So from Elliot's therapy session with Krista, we find out that it's his birthday today of this episode. It's his birthday, and him and Darlene meet up at the pier, and she wishes him happy birthday, and he's very cold, and he's like, why did you call me? That's it? That's all you're gonna say to me? And she tells him she needs to leave. She's gonna go out of town, upstate, and he tells her, you know what, stay with me for the night. And actually, right before that, he actually was like, "Oh, do you remember when we built Kevin McAllister?" And she's like, "Yeah. Do you want to talk about it?" And of course, he doesn't. Philip Price and White Rose meet once again, and they're going on and on about this currency war and how if White Rose does not sign China on to the currency where they all use e-coin, then there'll be like this huge like massacre or whatever. Not massacre, but there'll be an imbalance because a lot of countries will end up pulling out because, why would they want to use e-coin? And White Rose is like, I'm not going to do it till we get the UN vote. I honestly don't know what that is about, but we know it's all business. Where, aka, Philip Bryce tries to threaten White Rose, but White Rose, he's so brilliant. Actually, I will change White Rose's pronoun from he to she because that's what she would have wanted. My favorite part of this scene was when White Rose was like, "Your success will always follow mine." I'm like, oh my god, so freaking good. Vicious. So fast forward to Darlene being at Elliot's house. Elliot is asleep. She kind of is in the midst of something. She went behind his computer and she did something. And then all of a sudden, Elliot's right behind her, says, "What are you doing? Why are you here? Why are you leaving? Like, where are you going?" He's like, and she's trying to play it cool, but there's like a switch, and she realizes that it's actually Mr. Robot and not Elliot, and he starts hurting Darlene, and Darlene won't say why she's leaving, what she's doing, and what she did. And so she kind of like storms out. We are back at therapy with Krista, and this is the first time we actually see Elliot as Mr. Robot. She wants to talk to Mr. Robot, and he comes out, and Elliot's still in his normal form, and his facial expression completely switches, and he gets so serious, and I'm like, I kind of want to see this side more. Of course, Mr. Robot, Christian Slater, comes out, and he goes on this whole spiel, and he's like, "Oh, you're so attractive. He didn't tell me you were so attractive." It's like, oh my god, men. And obviously, Mr. Robot's not going to tell Krista jack shit because that's who he is, and he just shuts it down. And Elliot wakes up, and he's like, "Oh, so when are we going to start?" Like he didn't know that it happened already. Like he completely blinked out. We go to Elliot's house, and the guy that Krista's ex with the dog that Elliot hacked is at his front door and says, "I don't like this fucking dog anyways, you can keep him." And it's like, whoa, God, oh my god, this guy's like crazy and evil and just like a jerk. Anyways, Ellie goes into his room. He immediately knows something is wrong with his computer. He kind of tries to track some stuff down, and he just knows. He's a smart kid. He just knows. And then we go follow Dominique, the FBI woman, into their FBI house, and they realize that Elliot sent an email to somebody last night, and it was actually not to Tyrell or anybody, but it was actually to the FBI. And then the last scene is of like camera footage of Elliot going into Darlene's house. It's like, bitch, you act like you didn't already know that he was gonna hack you. Like, you act like you didn't know. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for the summary. That was a long, oh my god, sometimes, like, do we really need a summary? Let me know if you even want me to summarize, because I'd rather just go in for the review. So, my new segment of my 3 favorite moments, or I think I should change it to 3 favorite scenes. Sounds more appropriate. Of course, the opening sequence, opening shot, opening scene was one of my favorites. It's really classic Mr. Robot. And it just takes me back to a happier time when Ellie was semi-happy, and I like that he's on the good, on the track to do good. 2, when Darlene and Elliot get together at the pier, I just think it's just this really sweet moment where she kind of opens up to Elliot and says, I just want to spend more time with you. A lot of siblings, obviously, if you have a sibling, you don't get too mushy with them. But if this is like your one last chance to kind of tell them how you really feel, you would. And she did. And it just felt like a very special moment. And even though Elliot can't really reciprocate his feelings towards her, he can at least kind of be like, his gesture was like, hey, do you want to stay over? Because I need company. And I think that, I don't know, just the whole scene in general was just like a very sweet, sweet moment. And then 3, the therapy scene where Mr. Robot comes out is like so brilliant. I really like to see Rami Malek playing Mr. Robot in his like real form. I like that switch in character. It's so drastic almost, because it really is like a 180. Yeah. And Christian Slater, he's just so good at being an asshole and just getting straight to the point and being an aggressive person like he is. And you get to see the dynamics of Elliot with Krista, and then Mr. Robot with Krista, and it's just, I just thought that scene was just all around brilliant and very captivating. Loved it. As for this episode, okay. Where do I start? Because someone actually died. That was the big. I did not expect her to die, but I like it that the level of danger is increasing, because I always know that whenever Mr. Robot, whenever every season starts, they kind of start out a little bit slow, then they like kind of trickle in like the bang, bang, bang. So this is kind of like the first wave. We're gonna have a lot more waves in the future, but this, when Joanna Wellick died, it was kind of traumatizing. Also, because we pan to the baby, and the baby has blood splattered all over his face. It's like, oh shit. Also, he's going to child services because they don't give a fuck about this baby. Because obviously, you know what I think though? Why don't they use the baby as bait for Tyrell? I mean, I don't know if Tyrell would even be like, oh, I want my baby back. But also, I feel like it's worth a shot. Men love their babies. It's worth a shot to kind of lure him in, especially once he knows that Joanna is dead. So maybe the next episode that is what will happen. There's just so many feelings. I'm kind of shocked that Darlene sold Elliot out, even though she's trying to protect him at all costs. I think that was the only way to really save her ass, in a way. Because maybe she knew that he can handle himself. I love BD Wong, and I think this is the best character he has ever played. So fascinating. White Rose is such a fascinating character. It's probably one of the most fascinating characters in TV character history. I really think White Rose is such a complex character, the way she interacts with people and how she always has the upper hand no matter what. And I'm like, you're so brilliant. Ugh. I also really love the score. You can kind of hear in certain scenes, just like the music being underlined in the scene. And you can kind of hear the tension creeping up. Ah, so good. So good. Every aspect, or just generally every episode, is so good, especially in its detail, to its shot choices, its song choices. Ooh, that season 1 and 2, their song selection was insane. And I mean, likewise to season 3, probably. But yeah, it's always great to see Krista back in action. I really think that she obviously has very good intentions for Elliot. It's just like, how much progress can she make? And I almost want her to dive in deeper into it and almost get wrapped up. But obviously, that's like not going to happen. But who knows? I'm also really excited to see what happens in the next episode with the FBI knowing that Elliot knows. So it's like, what are they going to do now? Is Elliot going to fight back FBI? Is FBI going to double down and arrest him for whatever reason? What will happen? I know they're eventually trying to get to Tyrell. And maybe Mr. Robot will lead them to Tyrell in order to shut stage 2 down. But who knows? Also, stage 2 happening on the same day as the UN. Like, that episode is going to be insane because, shit's going to go down and it's going to be absolute chaos. This was a really good one. I really like it when they kind of soak on these moments, like the therapy scene and him reflecting, and seeing Elliot really happy, telling that story for once made me really happy because he was smiling so much. You never see him smile, and whenever he does smile, it's amazing. And then when he cries, he really, really cries. And I want to be able to understand like the kind of loneliness that he's feeling, because he is in such an isolated place. He is not with anybody. He hasn't talked to Mr. Robot in weeks or whatever. And he can't even see his sister because she's a trigger point and Angela's doing God knows what. And basically, yeah, he has nobody. So, some tough times. Now he has a dog, though. I'm really happy that he has a dog. Every person needs a dog. Dogs are... Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Be sure to comment. Let me know every little detail of what you think. And I can't wait to see and talk to you about next week's episode. It's going to be just as great. And, oh man, this one was a juicy one. Anyways, thank you guys so much. And be sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.